time-traveling police detective goes back to the 1980s to wrap up unfinished business with his nemesis, a dangerous mastermind and a huge threat to humanity. Sound cool? Because I'm here to talk about Trancers from 1984. Hey guys, welcome back to my retooled version of Full Moon Friday. I wasn't super happy with the way that, the previous videos in this series kind of turned out, so, I took some time off to kind of rethink it. I was just kind of all over the place, trying to cover, cram 4 to 5 movies into one video, so I think, from now on I'll just focus on one at a time. Anyways, I'm excited and maybe a little bit intimidated to talk about Trancers with it being such a kind of a cult film. I don't have a ton of history with it, and I know that things like this are guarded closely by the chosen few. And Trancers was also known by the name, the way less cool name I should add, Future Cop. It was produced and directed by Full Moon and Empire Pictures' main man, Charles Band himself. And it had an estimated budget of around $400,000, and it's a very grainy looking film, but I wouldn't change a thing here because it adds a weirdness and kind of an air of obscurity to the whole thing. And the main character, of course, is Jack Death, a 23rd century police officer played by the great Tim Thomerson. Now, let's talk about Tim Thomerson just for a second because, I love the dude, and I always thought that he should have been bigger. At least on the level of Tom Atkins or something like that. He was a steady working actor, like a character actor in the 70s and all the way through the 90s, really, and he did a lot of television. And I know him for stuff like Near Dark and Doll Man, and of course Trancers. So the beginning shows Jack Death doing his thing, which is tracking down Trancers, which are like people under mind control by the film's villain Whistler. The Trancers look like normal people until they know that you're onto them, and then they get angry and turn into zombie-like creatures, and then they try to kill you. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, I know, but why would you question it? And within the first 30 seconds, you're going to see Blade Runner comparisons all over the place. And normally copying something so blatantly wouldn't work, but it does. In my opinion, it totally does. And like in Blade Runner, the 23rd century here looks like a mix of futuristic and 1940s America. Like the police detectives wear trench coats and they slick their hair back, and you get old 40s movie vibes, and I think it's really cool. But then there are flying cars and laser guns, and yeah, you get it. So Jack goes into an old 40s, 50s, style diner to order a cup of coffee, and since he's a veteran trancer hunter, he suspects that the old lady working at the diner is one. And before he can subdue her, she attacks him, she bites him, she stabs him, throws boiling water at him, before he can get a shot off at her, which pretty much evaporates the body entirely. These laser guns. I don't know if the guns do that to everyone or if it's just Trancers. It's a super fun scene and a pretty fantastic way to start things off. You kind of tell yourself, okay, this is clearly not super original and I'm okay with that. Jack's been doing this a long time, at least you get the feeling he has, and he's pretty disillusioned at this point, and he decides to just up and quit the force. But that doesn't last long, because the next day he's approached, with the news that his nemesis Whistler is still alive when everyone thought he was dead. And not only is he alive, but he escaped back to the year 1985, and I will say that the concept of time travel here is pretty cool, and as far as I know, totally original. You have to be injected with this drug that allows you to take over the body and consciousness of one of your ancestors from a specific point in time. So Jack is tasked yet again to take down Whistler. Now, going back to 1985 definitely breaks away from the Blade Runner-esque, world, but I kind of really liked that. I really liked the weird, neo-noir feel of the beginning, but hey, I could just watch Blade Runner for that. So yeah, Jack time travels to 1985 Los Angeles, and he meets Lena, played by a super young Helen Hunt. Obviously she would go on to, much, much bigger things, but it's super cool to see her here, and she's fantastic. She's cute as a button, gives a fantastic performance, and from what I understand, she returned for some of those sequels, despite not at all needing to, and I really respect that. And really, the main plot of the film is Whistler, traveling back, in time to eliminate the future Angel City council members, and that's not actually too bad of a story. Overall, I think this is a really cool sci-fi movie from the 80s. Once you get past the obvious Blade Runner comparisons, it's got plenty of its own ideas, I think. The budget was low, but that's made up for with, decent writing, a decent storyline, and good characters and performances all around. I could have used more Trancer fights like the one in the beginning. There's a few, but the others aren't as cool like that first one was. And Whistler is a decent villain, but you really don't see that much of him until the end. I think establishing him a little better would have been effective. So I'm giving Trancers a 7 out of 10. It's a product of its time, but I mean that in the best of ways. If you like sci-fi, and especially 80s sci-fi, I'd recommend this gem. I haven't seen the sequels yet, but I will be checking them out soon. Cheers, guys.